Ghoulash here, and welcome to another entry of...
The Ghoulog.
In this video, I'll be sharing my thoughts on Wednesday, the hit new Addams Family TV series on Netflix. It's a good show, but it's not really my kind of thing. Alright, let's move on to more Scooby-Doo videos with a RiffView of Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins.
Whoa, hold on. Did I just hear you're making a Scooby-Doo video?
Yeah?
Without me?
I mean, do you really need to be involved in every Scooby-Doo video?
You're goddamn right I do.
Okay. I guess my creator, Dr. Wolfula, will also be joining me for this RiffView.
Happy to be included.
Yeah, okay. Well, Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins was released in 2009 direct to Cartoon Network. It wasn't a good time for Scooby-Doo, and especially Cartoon Network. A third live-action Scooby-Doo film was considered, but quickly abandoned after Scooby-Doo 2's underperformance at the box office, and the last Scooby cartoon series around this time was Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue, which wasn't a terrible show, but was definitely on the weaker end of the spectrum of Saturday morning cartoons, signaling the end of the beloved programming block it aired on, Kids WB.
Man, remember when cartoons actually played on Saturday mornings? Gave you something to actually wake up in the morning for? Those were the days.
WB yourself!
Things weren't looking much better for Cartoon Network. Its late-night programming block, Adult Swim, got a mixed response to its guerrilla marketing campaign for the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie.
Knock, knock.
Welcome home, baby.
Glorified light brights and the Moonanites images hung up in random cities, and one city in particular, Boston, jumped to the conclusion that these pixel art signs were time bombs. Which is ridiculous and idiotic, but that's Boston for you.
Go Pats!
Yeah, well, Boston declared the LED signs a bomb hoax, and Cartoon Network paid the city $2 million in damages.
A cool $2 million just for being scared of a sign. Not bad.
I am 30 or 40 years old and I do not need this.
During the fallout from this debacle, the manager of Cartoon Network, Jim Samples, resigned, and the network took an unfortunate turn under the new management of Stuart Snyder, who pushed for more live-action content on a channel with the word cartoon in its name. The network had already toyed with live-action media with its TV movie, Reanimated, and its short-lived spin-off show, Out of Jimmy's Head.
Jimmy, get down! Yes!
But under Snyder's regime, even more live-action shows and movies aired on the once exclusively animated network under the banner of CN Real, and most of these new shows were trashy, cheap reality game shows. During the fast-forwarding decline of Cartoon Network, one notable piece of live-action media was spawned based on one of Hanna-Barbera's most beloved cartoons.
The Snorks?
Yes, the Snorks. No, Scooby-Doo! The Snorks? Seriously, the Snorks? Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins would be a prequel to the franchise. If you ignore a pup named Scooby-Doo, I guess. And the film would tell the origins of how the gang united in high school and solved their first mystery. A novel idea, I guess, but is Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins worthy of its long-running franchise's name? Or is it as trashy as most of the other live-action media Cartoon Network was pumping out at the time? Let's find out in our RiffView of Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins. But first I have a message from my sponsor.
Me! Pledge to the Dr. Wolfula Patreon today to support the Ghoulog channel, help it continue to grow, and you'll also get access to weekly movie nights every Sunday and archive commentaries if you miss the movie nights live. Just $5 a month to get a movie night every week.
Pledge to patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula if you're interested, and we thank you in advance. Alright, Scooby-Doo The Mystery begins with Shaggy stepping onto the school bus headed to Crystal Cove High.
You mean Coolsville High School. This was still the era of Scooby-Doo where they lived in Coolsville.
Coolsville? Sounds like the name of a f***ing retro 50s diner. Anyway, during this shameless ripoff of the first scene from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie...
Have a nice trip, Shaggy.
Yep, sure did.
All the other future Mystery Inc. members are also on this bus, but they don't know each other yet. Daphne is a theater snob who's too good for Shaggy's disgusting stoner food.
Peanut butter jelly and sardines.
Stuck up, bitch.
And Velma is constructing a homemade nuclear weapon.
They scoffed Oppenheimer too, you know. I knew everyone at the science fair would bow before me.
Oh, and Fred is there too, I guess.
Wait, Fred isn't blonde in this fucking movie? What kind of inaccurate bullshit is this. Fred's only two defining characteristics is he's blonde and wears an ascot, and I don't see either.
Okay, well, at least you're only angry about this and not Velma in this movie being Asian.
Wait, Velma is Asian in this movie?
Okay, let's just move on.
Grow up, man.
I should mention that The Mystery Begins and its sequel were both directed by Brian Levant, who was no stranger to live-action adaptations of Hanna-Barbera cartoons, having previously directed those terrible Flintstones movies.
Brian Levant gave us The Great Gazoo in live action. The man is a saint.
Well, if the best movie you've ever directed is Jingle All the Way, it's not a good sign.
Hey, Jingle All the Way is still the only good Iron Man movie to date.
All right, fair point. Well, Shaggy doesn't have any friends, and it's become well known enough that it's a concern to the principal, who calls Shaggy to the office, probably thinking the kid will eventually shoot up the school.
Friends, Mr. Rogers, do you have any? Friends, yeah, like I got tons of those.
Principal Deedle's solution to Shaggy's friend dilemma is for the boy to pick up stamp collecting. You know, people only collect stamps because they have no friends to mail letters to.
Hey, I collect stamps.
That's really sad. And speaking of sad, elsewhere, another future member of Mystery Inc. is sad and alone. Scooby-Doo, who's up for grabs at a local adoption fair, but nobody's interested in a computer-generated dog hastily animated on a 2000s television budget.
Unlike the theatrical live-action films, Scooby is voiced by Frank Welker, a veteran of the franchise who's been voicing Scooby in the cartoons for the past 20 years. I gotta say, though, I feel like Neil Fanning's voice was a better fit for a live-action Scooby.
Search for clues. Search for clues.
Where he made Scooby sound a bit like a real dog, making him more believable next to actual human beings instead of drawings of human beings.
From this day forward, we will no longer be our goofy selves.
With Frank Welker playing Scooby, it just plays like Roger Rabbit, where Scooby stands out more as a cartoon character in the real world.
Scooby-Doo, where are you?
I think part of this Scooby not coming off as natural, though, can be attributed to the character model and animation of this Scooby kind of being shittier. Or more geometric, at least. The original Scooby film took liberties with the cartoon design to make Scooby come off more believable while still remaining cartoony. Scooby was rendered with realistic textures and lighting, but it's not so realistic that he's in the uncanny valley and looks creepy. He's still a cartoon dog, but he looks like he belongs in the real-life setting. With The Mystery Begins Scooby, it would have been passable in a direct-to-video animated movie at the time, but as a live-action film, it's just too cartoony, especially in a film that looks so bland and normal. This isn't like Brian Levant's Flintstones flicks where it's a lush, fully realized, colorfully cartoony world. The sets and locations are pretty mundane, and it makes this cartoony Scoob stick out like a sore thumb. Anyway, Scooby is the only dog that isn't adopted that day, which means he'll be taken back to the animal shelter in his inhumanely cramped cage to be euthanized. But fortunately for Scooby, he's unwittingly abandoned, and later that night, Scoob is frightened by the sight of two ghosts arising from their graves.
Of course, these ghosts have to be criminals in costumes, right? There's no way this is a Scooby-Doo prequel involving real ghosts, right?
Let's just keep moving. The scared mutt crashes into Shaggy's home while he's sleeping, and Shaggy just adopts Scooby on the spot.
Oh, well, you're welcome to stay here with me. We can be friends.
Cutting to a montage of them becoming fast friends, playing frisbee, Scooby stealing sandwiches with his eldritch tongue, and just general frolicking in the park.
Are these the kind of things friends do together?
I know it's what I do with my friends.
Gosh, I wish I had a friend.
Yeah, it really is great. Anyway, Shaggy takes Scooby to school with him by dressing his new dog up as the Unabomber.
Nice clothes.
Huh, he looks somehow familiar. I can't quite place it.
Yes, well, Shaggy is tripped by this 38-year-old high school student, and as retribution, Scooby transmits his undisclosed rabies to the student, and the ensuing fight results in Fred being viciously assaulted by Daphne and Velma for some reason, and the bus driver responsibly takes his eyes off the road, resulting in him not using his brake pedal to avoid killing people, and instead safely swerving the bus into a pole, which lands in the vice principal's windshield.
There are vice principals? That's gotta be the fakest job imaginable.
My new car.
Instead of the bus driver rightfully taking the fall for his slipshod driving, he throws Shaggy and the gang under the bus, pun intended, forcing them to spend time together in detention reading.
It's like a watchable version of The Breakfast Club.
The rules for detention are the same as they are in the library. That means no talking, no texting, no eating.
You might recognize the librarian, Doc, as the exposition nurse from Halloween Resurrection.
She decapitated a man.
Unfortunately, this movie was the actress's final role. She passed away the year this movie came out.
Man, Halloween Resurrection and Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins. What a legacy.
She'll always live on.
Now I've got to do double duty with a bunch of illiterates. They found her up on the roof more than once. Must be the guild.
During detention, Fred, Daphne, and Velma bond over their shared interest in mystery novels.
Look at that. You all like mysteries, huh?
While Shaggy revels in his pre-K illiteracy, but outside, dark storm clouds are approaching.
Must take place in Florida.
After some hot book-on teen action, the gang is faced by their first encounter with the paranormal, and their instinct is to draw the ghosts into their school's crowded auditorium to maximize potential loss of life. It's at the auditorium that another significantly shittier-looking ghost makes himself known.
The mask he's wearing looks like a guy who just smelled a fart.
Students of Coolsville High, leave this place now!
The dark figure threatens doom to whoever remains at the school, and it won't be the last time somebody wearing all black threatens to kill students in an American public school.
Whoever chooses to remain here will be doomed!
And because there are no convenient goth kids to pin this all on, the gang end up the fall guys yet again and are suspended.
Because now you're all suspended.
Suspended?
So the gang has to clear their names, and that for some reason involves them trespassing in a cemetery at night.
In my experience, trespassing in cemeteries at night has only gotten me into more trouble, not out of trouble.
I'm unwillingly living proof of your late-night excursions into cemeteries. At this graveyard, though, the gang learns that the ghosts haunting the school were victims of a flood that happened in Coolsville over 100 years ago.
The Erie Dam burst and all of Coolsville was washed away. A whole new town was built right on top of the old one.
Jesus Christ, for a town called Coolsville, it has an insanely dark backstory. A flood destroyed the original town, killing countless people, and they just built another town on top of the decimated one?
Yeah, you'd think the backstory for Coolsville would be a little more fun. Founded by hippies tripping on mushrooms or something.
Looks like a lot of these people lost their lives on that fateful day.
Anyway, the next day, Shaggy has his new friends, okay, let's just face it, his new acquaintances over so Velma can break down additional beats of exposition.
Prudence Prufrock and Ezekiel Gallows, the founding faculty of Coolsville Academy.
It turns out the ghosts on the loose were faculty of the original Coolsville High who died in the flood before they could bury a time capsule the next day.
The flood destroyed Coolsville Academy, and the two founding faculty were killed.
They ended up being the ones buried that day.
Sir, this isn't funny. They lost their lives.
You're right. I'm sorry.
You shouldn't be apologizing to me. You should be apologizing to the viewers you let down today. Forget about it. Well, Velma suggests investigating the school after hours, and she breaks in the spazziest way imaginable.
Man, I thought Shaggy in this was cringe.
While investigating the campus auditorium, the gang discovers a splattering of white goo.
Wow, I never thought I'd see the day the Scooby Gang would be collecting semen samples.
Unfortunately, before Velma can get a good look at the cum shavings, the gang gets jumped by a duo of haunted football player mannequins.
This movie makes an episode of Goosebumps look expensive in comparison.
Care to play around?
Shaggy and Scooby decide to hide out in, surprise, the school's kitchen, but they get a visit from a ghostly grammar Nazi.
Like time for a nutrition break, eh, Scoob?
First, a grammar lesson. You never start a sentence with the word like.
And out of fear of more grammar lessons, end up trapping themselves in the freezer.
How do you like that? Undone by the thing we love most.
Shaggy and Scooby have always been the caretakers.
After the ghosts hit the Pentagon, the high school, the gang ends up with even further blame for the terrorism they only somewhat participated in by breaking into the school in the first place. So the gang ends up expelled.
Now you're all expelled.
Even better. Oh, wait.
Stay out of gangs and stay in school, kids.
That's really good advice, sir.
I'm just kidding. Drop out of school, kids. Join a gang, sell drugs, kill anybody who doesn't show you respect.
Sir, shut up. You're gonna get me demonetized. Again. And speaking of things that will get me demonetized, Scooby-Doo is taking a piss when the gang decides to continue their investigation of the school anyway, even though they're no longer students.
I was thinking of a more theatrical approach.
So they go in disguise, allowing Daphne to reiterate the lesson of the Breakfast Club.
Ouch!
Conformity is cool, and being conventionally attractive is more important than being yourself.
It's a lesson all teenagers need to learn eventually. You want friends, right? Well, you make friends by living a lie.
It's just a disguise.
So what are we gonna go as?
Daphne disguises herself as a school shooter, Fred disguises himself as Rob Deerdick, while Shaggy and Scooby finally get to embrace what they truly are.
Joe, let's do this.
Fred and Daff stake out the boiler room to see what the suspicious janitor is up to, and it's nothing anybody should ever have to see.
Little trivia, this actor was in the live-action Scooby-Doo movie before this one, playing the minor 49er in Monsters Unleashed. He should have quit Scooby-Doo movies while he was ahead.
Anyway, what matters is Velma discovers in the librarian's possession what is essentially a Necronomicon, a book that can conjure up the spirits of the undead.
Volume 3, a practical guide to raising the dead and how to use them for your own evil purposes.
So wait, this basically confirms that for the Scooby Gang's first mystery, they encountered real ghosts? Why would they be skeptical about ghosts existing later if they ran into real ghosts the first time around?
The non-material embodiment or essence has been scientifically proven to be a sheer myth. There's no such thing as a ghost.
Well, this is sort of considered a Scooby-Doo prequel, possibly a prequel to the theatrical live-action movies, but my theory is that this movie was intended to be a backdoor pilot for a live-action Scooby-Doo TV series on Cartoon Network. And its gimmick would have had them solving mysteries with real supernatural entities in a continuity separate from the previous films or cartoons. The Mystery Begins was one of Cartoon Network's biggest hits rating-wise, getting the best ratings Cartoon Network had ever seen and beating its previous record, the premiere of Star Wars The Clone Wars the previous year of 2008. But Cartoon Network possibly didn't see a TV spin-off as feasible with the amount of effects work necessary, so they ended up only greenlighting a film sequel, which also featured supernatural beings, not guys in costumes.
Yeah, it does make sense as a TV pilot. A new origin story of this new version of the gang, setting up all the characters in a high school setting with all that will they won't they shit. This maybe would have been better as a show over a movie, but then maybe we wouldn't have gotten Mystery Incorporated as the next Scooby-Doo TV show after Get a Clue.
Maybe we also wouldn't have gotten that Velma show.
That's a world I would have liked to live in.
We can't dwell on what-ifs. The gang discovers that Vice Principal Grimes is in possession of the book they need to send the ghosts back to rotting in the ground.
And look who checked it out last.
Vice Principal Grimes?
But unfortunately, their plans for more breaking and entering are foiled by the distance of the Vice Principal's home.
He lives on top of Coolsville Mountain. It'd take us all night to ride our bikes up there.
This was before Uber. Luckily, Shaggy has a license because he's actually an adult man hanging out with these minors.
I got held back. Twice.
Speaking of which, this movie has Kate Milton kissing Robbie Amell when she was 16 and he was 20.
Yeah, let's not talk about that kind of trivia. Point is, Daphne's family has a spare car that Shaggy can drive them in, but they have to boost it. Cue Velma's spazzy ass running again.
Of course, they don't get to take any of the Blake family's swank cars, instead using the van that Daphne's father uses for his human trafficking operation.
Get it together, man! The state of Ohio issued you a license. Now show us you deserve it!
Wait, Scooby-Doo takes place in Ohio?
Explains why scary shit's always going on.
During the drive, the gang starts to bond some more.
Fred, you were exactly what we thought you'd be.
To a T.
Come on.
Or make that an N for
Whoa, did Velma really just call Fred a slur?
I don't know, maybe.
Sorry for ever saying that.
No problem.
The gang has an easy time finding their destination. Just look for the sign that says Old Spooky House in blood font. Shaggy has second thoughts about breaking into the private residence of an elderly man, though.
We can't just go breaking into Vice Principal Grimes' house, then he really could have us arrested. It's not breaking in if the front door's wide open.
It's still trespassing, which is still very illegal.
It's insane. They've broken more laws in the process of trying to prove they didn't commit a crime to begin with.
Well, I guess cops break the law to enforce the law all the time. Why shouldn't Scooby in the gang?
Well, anyway, Fred decides to officially have the gang split up for the first time.
But you think it might be a good idea if we split up and search for clues?
Taking Velma and Daphne upstairs towards the bedroom, while Shaggy and Scooby desecrate World War II memorabilia.
Precious and Daisy.
Unfortunately, before Shaggy and Scooby can desecrate even more war memorabilia, it becomes possessed and the gang tries to escape the house, only to get asked if this smells like chloroform to them.
Sweet dreams, kiddies.
Transporting the gang straight to the final act of the movie.
Where are we?
It's here where dipshit Ghostface coerces the gang to find the missing time capsule down in the old high school, buried underground.
It's all about the time capsule.
Or he'll kill Scooby-Doo.
Oh no! And I guess also the vice principal too.
Yeah, he can just go ahead and kill that guy.
Scooby-Doo's my dog and I'd do anything to save him. And Scooby's not just his dog. I feel like he's my dog too.
Oh, he's your dog too? Is this suddenly communist Russia?
For Scooby!
So the gang risks further jail time by assisting a terrorist and kidnapper to achieve his goals. And it's here where Velma is almost crushed to death, but is instead crushed by her crush.
Are you okay?
Never better.
This was Hayley Kiyoko's greatest challenge as an actor, trying to convincingly play Velma being attracted to a man. She won an Oscar for this.
Even if we do manage to find the time capsule, he still can pin the whole thing on us.
Anyway, the gang instantly gives up on finding the time capsule and instead easily trick the guy cosplaying as the magic mirror from Shrek into coming down into the old school where they can jump him and kick his ass. But they unwittingly save his ass.
The time capsule, mine at last.
Why didn't this guy just have the ghosts who were in charge of the time capsule in life to go get them for him to begin with? What is he, stupid or something?
Probably. Because Velma's glasses are destroyed, the gang tasks their most illiterate member with reading the spell to banish the ghosts. But this only results in everybody who ever died in the town coming back as vengeful spirits, like the opposite of what they're trying to do.
Anyone for chicken cordon?
And they never think to have Daphne or Fred read the spells. They just keep letting Shaggy's illiterate ass fuck things up until he gets it right. And all of the town's ghosts are returned to their horrible purgatory, trapped between heaven and hell for all eternity. A happy ending, all things considered.
You think that changes anything?
Unfortunately, the Dark Spectre plans a last-ditch suicide bombing to claim his 72 virgins. But thanks to Scooby, the villain's a little tied up.
That's my boy.
The villain is ultimately revealed to be the gang's beloved Principal Deedle, who hatched a complex terrorist plot involving ghosts and the abduction/coercion of his students in order to acquire a rare stamp for his stamp collection.
The eerie stamp, the most valuable misprint in the entire world.
Horrible, but honestly, by American public school standards, he's still a pretty good principal.
It would have been all mine if it weren't for you meddling kids and your dog.
That's me!
After saving the day, a press conference is held to congratulate the gang, and they wear the worst clothes in their wardrobes to celebrate their victory.
To mark the occasion, we are going to officially bury the Coolsville Academy time capsule.
And now that the mystery has been solved, the gang has no reason to hang out with each other. So like with all real-life high school friendships based on being stuck in the same rooms together, the gang goes their separate ways. That would be a happy ending, but instead they have to ruin it by having the gang segue into the mystery from the cartoon show's first episode, and by unnecessarily explaining the origin of Scooby snacks.
Would you do it for a Scooby snack?
Would we back?
Yeah, I figured you love these treats so much I'd name them after you.
And then they play the What's New Scooby-Doo theme over the gang painting the mystery machine and a mixture of clips recreating shit from the Scooby-Doo Where Are You and What's New Scooby-Doo intros. It's a little tacky.
I guess you could say that about the whole movie. Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins isn't good or bad, it's just kind of okay. Coming out a few years after the original live-action movies, which weren't flawless masterpieces by any stretch of the imagination, The Mystery Begins just came off as shitty in comparison.
The production is really amateurish, the acting of the young cast is uneven, and the effects are all over the place in quality and style. It's just a wildly inconsistent, half-hearted attempt at a live-action version of Scooby-Doo that seemed to be trying to pay tribute to the franchise while simultaneously not putting a lot of money or effort into it at the same time.
Still, the movie's decently entertaining, especially for a Scooby fan or somebody nostalgic for when it came out. And if you treat it as 3 episodes of a live-action Scooby-Doo stitched together that never got picked up as a series, it works a lot better on that level than if you're going in expecting a movie. I give Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins 3 frozen Shaggies out of 5. What rating would you give it, sir?
I give The Mystery Begins a black-haired Fred out of blonde-haired Fred. All right, Ghoulash, now let's move on to the sequel.
Oh yeah, there's a sequel.
To a T.
Come on.
Or make that an N for Neanderthal.
This video is made possible through the pledges of Dr. Wolfula's Patreon supporters, and I'd like to give a very special thanks to the kind folks pledged to Doc's Shoutout tier. All the support on Patreon means a lot to me, and it helps my master's dark influence continue to grow. If you like this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more videos. Be sure to also keep in touch by following me on social media at Instagram and Twitter at the Ghoulog. While I still have your attention, consider pledging to my master Dr. Wolfula's Patreon to support the channel and get bonus content like previews, VIP Discord server access, private movie night streams, and credits in videos. Consider pledging at patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula. Also, check out official Ghoulash t-shirts and other merch on tpublic.com/user/Dr. Wolfula. Thanks for watching, see you all next time. You f***ing weirdos.